There's something romantic about restoration projects. You know, the derelict old house that real estate agents will sell as the renovator's dream. That classic old car restored to a showroom shine that you might parade at the summer nats. That antique piece of furniture which shows up its fine craftsmanship. Or an upcycling restoration project, and I've got plenty of those unfinished in my backyard. We're enticed by a project that takes something that is broken and makes it useful. We're drawn into a story of something ugly becoming beautiful when the sick becomes well. Our hearts beat to the rhythm of restoration. This is the heartbeat of the compassionate men who bring their friends to Jesus. Matthew doesn't tell us their backstory. The other gospel writers mentions crowds that had gathered to Jesus and a hole that was made in the roof of the house in order to get to Jesus. Matthew gives us two key details in verse 2. The man, he's paralysed. And what Jesus notices is the faith of the friends. Like the Roman centurion in chapter 8, these friends come to Jesus expectant that Jesus can and will do something. They are expectant that Jesus can restore their paralysed friend. This is faith. Without faith, they would have left their friend at home. Without faith, they might have stayed home themselves or at best sent out a bit of a reconnaissance mission to suss Jesus out. They wouldn't have gone to the trouble or the inconvenience to get their paralysed friend to Jesus. Jesus notices their faith. And what Jesus says, no one expects. Have a look with me in verse 2. Some men brought to Jesus a paralysed man lying on a mat, and when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." No one expected Jesus to be talking about sin. But it should be what we expect of the Messiah. Back in chapter 8, verse 17, that he was going to be one who takes away our infirmities. The Old Testament prophets, particularly Isaiah, said that when the Messiah comes, he will heal, and that is just a foretaste of him being the servant who will bring about forgiveness of sins. See, restoration of the body is just the supporting act to restoration of relationship with God. Well, the religious leaders, they're not comfortable with Jesus talking about sin and forgiveness of sin. They see this as blasphemy. A man claiming to be equal with God, and for blasphemy, that deserves the death penalty, stoning. Well, Jesus knows what they're thinking. Jesus knows what they're talking about. And his response tells us of the most amazing restoration project. Read again with me from verse 4. Knowing their thoughts, Jesus said, "Why do you entertain evil thoughts in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the paralysed man, "Get up, take your mat, and go home." And then the man got up and went home. Jesus' response tells us of the most amazing restoration project. He tells us about the Son of Man, the one who has the authority of God, the one who has the authority to act on behalf of God now and into eternity. And Jesus says that he is the one who has authority to forgive sins. We were told at Jesus' birth that he was to be given the name Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. Just take this in for a moment. Jesus has restored the life of a paralysed man. Jesus has restored him into relationship with God. Now, we don't know this man's backstory, but I know my backstory. You know your backstory. You know the secret and dark places of your heart. And some people round about you know those places when they come out of you in words of lies, untruths, unkind words, when they come out in actions that are about our self-glory. You know those places. You know your backstory. I know my backstory. And God knows it too. God knows just how derelict we are, how ugly we are on the inside and in relationship with Him. And Jesus offers us restoration. And the restoration that goes on in our heart is a greater miracle than the restoration of healing. Can you imagine the moment when a vaccine is discovered for COVID-19? It's going to be an amazing restoration moment. Life will be restored, community will be restored, the economy will be restored, physical gatherings and physical contact will be restored, school will be restored, yes, sport will be restored, kids ministry, youth ministry, holidays will be restored, church gatherings will be restored. It will be an amazing restoration moment. Now Matthew 9 tells us about an even greater moment of restoration. See how the crowd responds in verse 8? When the crowd saw this, they were filled with awe and they praised God who had given such authority to man, this man Jesus. Jesus is restoring lives in relationship with God. And I want my heart to beat to the rhythm of this restoration. This is what's going on in our lives, and we want to see it going on in the lives of people round about us. We want to be like that crowd that saw the paralysed man and respond to Jesus in awe and praise of God. It's been a while since we sang together. Here with Brock on the other side of the camera, who I know loves singing even more than me. I'm feeling emotional about how much we miss it. Not just because I love music, and I'm not even particularly a good singer, but there's something about being together as people who have a restoration project going on in our hearts, in joining together in praise of God. Just like every week at New Life at Home, we've got some songs recorded that you can play at home, and if you're anything like me and my family, we don't sing along. But I want to encourage you today to sing, to belt it out. Turn off your camera so that nobody else is going to hear, and don't worry about the neighbours. But sing loudly of the restoration project that God is doing in your life. Sing knowing that others are singing. We declare. How about you do that now?